Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. You can see the problem here. This is my scrap bin overflowing. I have some in a plastic bag. This is actually where it started. This is where it ended up. These aren't all crumbs. Some of them are larger size than crumbs, so I'm just calling it my scrap bin. And I want to start using this. I've done several things with 2.5-inch squares, some things with strips. Now I want to try to address all of this. And I have a couple of ideas. The one that first started rolling around in my head has morphed into different things, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going with them all, but I think I'm going to start with the original idea, which is doing it's kind of like it's a foundation piece crumb something or other, except that I want to use strips instead of squares, which is what you would typically do. So string quilts will often be done on squares, and I want to do something like that except in long strips. Now, this concept of doing it on strips with a foundation is of course not new with me. It's been around for probably a long time. I was reminded of it, I don't know, several weeks ago, maybe months by now. I saw a video, which I will try to find and link below, of a quilter who uses the tapes from like adding machines, not the heat ones, but the just the plain regular tape, rolls of tape, which I think is just brilliant, and she does some really great things with them. But I want to try it on, I think, white strips. And there's a reason that I want to do that, which may or may not be, I don't know, may not be any reason to do it. I may just be doing it without foundation, but I'm going to start with a foundation. It's not going to be anything whiz bang, but maybe I can talk a little bit about what some other ideas are that I have for this. So let's get started on some foundation strips. I already have some white strips of this width cut. I have no idea why. I don't remember. I could also potentially do it on just, I don't know, a strip of fabric that I have left over from trimming a quilt after I quilted it, or I don't know, a border left over or whatever. I absolutely could do that. Do it on some ugly fabric, well, fabric that I no longer like or no longer find a use for. There is a reason why I'm doing it on white, however, because I think I want to start the piecing, say about here, and it will just be a sew and flip thing until the last one, in which case it'll have to be applique, that edge. And then also at the end of it to leave some white there, because I want to be able to shift it so that the pieced part of it is not all lined up. So if I've got a piecing here and then another strip, if I can get this to work for me, another strip up here that's pieced there, even the same amount, and I shift one, then they aren't going to match up, and it will be a little more look more spontaneous, even if it isn't particularly spontaneous. So that's my plan. I may find there's no point in me doing that, but I'm not going to know until I try it. I could also do different widths, of course, and in fact I do want to do that, and I want the space in between these strips to also vary. I'm going to try them as, I think, maybe a little bit shorter to see what I want. If I were to make a full, well, I don't know, at some point. Now, you could make them very long to make a full-length quilt, and there's a possibility I could do that, except that I have so many full-length quilts, and I really need some that I can trade out and hang on my wall, because most of my wall space, if it doesn't have a bookshelf, has a quilt hanging. So I'm going to do that. Now, another option that I have, of course, is to do straight edge piecing, but not have it lined up in all parallel lines. I'd have to look again, but I'm thinking that the woman who used the roll of tape, paper tape, roll of paper, actually used all parallel lines, and it looks great, really does. She did some perpendicular, but I don't think she had diagonal things. I'll have to look again, but anyway, they looked great. I could also, so I could have lines that aren't parallel, but I could also decide that I want to applique on a curve here and there. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to leave, oh, I don't know. To start off with, that's like 18 inches I'm going to leave. There's nothing particularly magic about that number. And then I'll put on something that is strip-like, which is probably going to come out of, pardon me, and pardon the rattle, it's probably going to come out of here because I have lots of strips in here, and that will just give me a straight starting point. These are pretty narrow strips. Now, I'm not worried about this base white being perfectly pressed. I don't want any huge wrinkles in it like that, obviously, but I may end up trimming these down anyway. So now I've lost my approximate 18 inches. It's going to be about there. So I'm just going to sew this strip, scant 1/4 inch, and then flip it over. One of the reasons that I want to have the foundation there instead of just continuing to sew strips is I go off kind of on wild tangents and I end up wasting fabric because as I'm trying, I don't have that good spatial relationship thing. So as I'm going further down, I'm thinking, oh my, I'm probably a little bit short here. I better add some more on. This gives me edges to deal with. I want a little bit to trim so that it's clean, but at least I know really logically where I can trim it this way so that I'm not growing in width or shrinking. So I'm just going to start with that, and I'll just do a few more too, so you can, a couple more of the straight and reasonably parallel, and then we'll come back and take a look at some other options. All right, I have sewed this and flipped it, and I've got a little lip here that isn't exactly a straight cut, but I won't worry about it. I can eyeball that well enough. Now I'm going to put this strip next, and it is lighter, so there's a chance it's going to shadow through, although once I press it to that side, it should be better. And I will trim off these roots before I do this. But in order to mitigate that even a little more, rather than trimming this after I stitch it, I'm going to slide this over just a bit, and that way that's not going to show through so much, and then I can do that. Doesn't look very straight in the end. Lots of things aren't going to be straight, I think, but oops, that's a waste of fabric, isn't it? And that one will be ready to sew. I have 3 strips sewn on now, and while I like the color changes and the whole concept, it's boring because they're all the same width, and that's enough of that. I did trim these not quite at the edge here. I wanted to have some strips that I could use later on, even if it's for a narrower piece than this. So I trimmed those off, but I left a little bit there again because when I trim it, I want to make sure I've got a little bit of leeway in case this isn't perfectly straight, which I know it's got a couple of nicks in it. So now I want to try something that, oh, wouldn't that be fun if I had a wider strip? I want to try something that is not a strip, not a straight strip, shall we say. And I'm thinking that I kind of like something like this. What if I did this triangle, make that narrower, did a triangle, and then had 2 pieces crossing over like this, and then another one to tie those together. That sounds like fun. Maybe I will try that. Sorry about this light over here. I usually film on Wednesday mornings. I'm doing this on Tuesday late afternoon because a friend and I are going to a small museum that's in a former Carnegie library in a town that used to be in my territory when I was a library consultant, so I knew it well. It was an old building and the city just was not willing to invest in redoing it. They built a new building, they have a lovely new building, but a gentleman bought the building and has turned it into an art museum, and it's a lovely place. He did a wonderful job. Anyway, they're having an exhibit of quilts from an area quilter, and so we're going to drive down. It's about an hour and a half away. So we're going to do that tomorrow, which is a long way of saying, sorry about this light, but I need light by my sewing machine so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to give this a try. May work well, maybe looking bad, but we shall see. So I'm going to do this. I may, in fact, trim that a little first so that, again, I can move the edge of the green over past the edge of that so that, actually, I don't know that that yellow is going to shadow through much, but I do know that I want this to be a narrower strip, and I'm going to leave it straight for the moment. And I'll put on that triangle, see what happens. And now I have a place where I can do that. I may need, oh, here's a thought. I could do something like that, and then I'm actually doing some crumb quilting, which might be nice to do every once in a while. I don't know that I want it to all be like that. I don't know. Let's give this a go and then figure out what we're going to do with that. I need another triangle. I think I can find one somewhere. So I have to think about whether or not I like those colors, though. Don't know about that. I like the colors, but whether or not, oh, here's a thought. What if we do a triangle here Now I'm going to be getting myself into the same trouble, aren't I? Then one here, and then I still need something there. I could do like some straight strips across, and then this covers those. I do a triangle here, and then here I'll do some straight strips across. Use this to cover up this side of them, this end, and then another strip to cover that up. I'd have to applique one side of this, but that's not a big deal. That is perfectly doable. And I'm doing some pretty light colors here, so I need something else here to jazz that up a bit. I don't know if I want that much green. So I'm going to sew that on. Probably trim that up a bit and then do a strip set, maybe put that there and then take it from there. All right, I think I can see what I'm doing. I'll do it off screen so that if I'm totally off base, you can be shouting at me that it won't work, it won't work. But I can do it in private. I can make my mistakes in private. I'm almost thinking then that's gonna need a little something something in there, isn't it? All right, I'm getting carried away. I know you were shouting at me and I heard you saying, put in a black and white stripe. Yay. I think I will. Doesn't need to be straight, can be diagonal, and then I can just pick it up from there. I also have some, I just happen to have black bias tape that I could put there. Not that I need it, I could applique it down. I mean, turn under the edge and do that, or raw edge applique. Or I could do this and do a decorative stitch. I've got white thread in the machine, which works for me, and do a decorative stitch there, and then I can start in with, okay, now I've committed myself to black and white stripes. Does this surprise anyone? No. Because I heard you calling out to me. All right, this has got a join there, which I may as well cut off. And now I'm going to attach that, and I'll probably use my favorite old railroad. I don't know why I call it the railroad stitch. It's only got one center stitch. Going to give that a go and see how it looks. Somewhere I even happen to have a little piece of stabilizer I could put under there. It is the universe telling me, I want you to do this. So this is what I will do. We'll see how it goes. But I always like that black and white accent, you know me. These are the kind of things that make it important for me to have the foundation so that I don't start going off in weird directions. I like that very much. I'm happy with that. And now I want to start going back, so I'll do, say, a diagonal one. I don't know what happened to that purple strip that I had, but I'll find another strip. So I will make a, say, a diagonal here, which I may end up cutting straight, and then I will do a few more straight parallel lines, different widths, because I think what I want are little bits of going wild and then go back to being placid and calm and then go wild some more. Okay, that's my plan. So I'm going to do that. I don't know that I necessarily want it that wide. I don't know that I want that black and white stripe that wide, so I could actually probably make this nearly straight. Maybe I could even make it straight. Yeah, I think I could do something like that. And then continue with some parallels. It's gonna have to, it'll have to be a little bit diagonal here, because I don't want to, do I want to cross over that? Maybe I do want to cross over the end of that. Or maybe not. I think maybe not. Sorry, I seem to be jiggling the camera. All right, so I'm going to add this on, and then I'll decide how wide I want that to be. I should be bringing in some print, shouldn't I? Just for fun. All right, I'll be back. You may have noticed, and I forgot to mention, that before I sewed this on, I did cut this green triangle to be long, or narrower, make it smaller. All right, and then this, I think I'm going to just leave it about that width, and then I want to put in this orange. I don't know how wide I want that to be yet, or how wide I want that purple to be. I could actually do that. In the end, it probably isn't going to matter that much. This is, there's a lot of hanging off over the edge here visually. So I'm wondering if maybe I won't do that about here, so that this ends up inside of this line. squirrels outside are scurrying madly. They are distracting me. I've been dealing with mice in my house. God, I can't figure out where they're coming from, how they're getting in here, but I am watchful when I see things scurrying. All right. Think about like that. I was a little bit over the edge there, further than I needed to be, so I'm going to drop this down so I waste a bit less of the orange. That means I will be trimming off some purple, and I'll have that left for another place. Here is a spinster tip for you. When you fold this back to trim something, make sure that you aren't also trimming your foundation piece. I mean, it's not any big deal. I could, if I cut that there by mistake, I can just stitch it back on by putting another thing there. But best to just avoid it to begin with, don't you think? All right, now here's a pretty pink that I think that's not the right place for it. What should I do next? Don't you think I need a green or something there? What have I got here? I have so many things. Ooh, maybe a bright yellow. Ooh, that would be nice. I want to trim that a little bit, but I'm going to do just a couple more of these. And then I'm going to start on another strip so we can just kind of see how they shift. You could keep going with this for very long strips to make a full-size quilt, of course. I'm just doing a test size, and hopefully it will be just kind of a wall size. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to do a couple more and then we'll come back. So this green is going to be my last piece. I was looking for a solid, but I decided, what the heck. And these two are the same print, but life goes on. So I have turned under the outside edge because I'm going to be appliquing, and then I'll just stitch this on, flip it over, and I think I will probably use just a pretty simple stitch to put this down because I have something else in mind for another strip, or another stitch, I mean. So I'm going to sew this, applique that down, and be back with you. You can see that I'm starting to just give myself lots and lots of extra here, which would be even worse if I didn't have this foundation. So I'm going to trim that in a minute. But I just used a simple zigzag in white along the edge. There are some other stitches that I really like that I thought about doing, but they sort of would ride half on the white and half on this fabric, and because it's white thread, that half wouldn't show, and I thought it would look a little odd. So that's just a simple zigzag, and now I want to do a decorative stitch going down the middle of here. Might even be kind of interesting to have it cross over there, because middle is probably not really what I want here. I will do it off to one side, but I don't know that I want it to cross over. So I'll probably have it toward this side. And I probably will trim this first so that I'm not stitching off into oblivion that I do not need to stitch to. And here is our first strip. I still have plenty for shifting. And now, just to see how this is going to work, I want to do a narrower strip and see if I can't use maybe same colors, not necessarily same fabrics. I may do a little bit of overlap on the fabrics so that there's some continuity going across. So I will get another one of these strips and cut it narrower. Maybe I'll even do it half. That's going to be a very narrow strip, isn't it? We'll see. I will cut my strip that is a width on a whim. I'm thinking I might go rogue early on this one and do a curve. if I do that, what if I do one side straight and the other side a curve? And that curve could have this. What if I did a bigger curve like that? This is a bias strip, but that's a pretty tight curve too. I don't know, I think that might be kind of fun. And then that's bringing the black and white stripe in again. And then I, of course, would have something under here already. How about screaming yellow? And I brought this fabric in so I have a crossover. And then have a yellow under here. Is that going to be enough of a wild and woolly thing? To do something crazier maybe. This is going to be a fairly short piece. So I want probably a fairly short crazy spot, but I still want a crazy spot, a wild spot I should say, sorry. The wild spot. That actually isn't too much of a curve if you look at where the edges of the foundation are. That could be a pretty hefty curve if I wanted it to be, or not so much if I didn't want it to be. And then what am I going to do over here? If I maybe do this, pull this up there, and then just what you came for today, wasn't it? Watch me fiddle around with stuff. It may be a little much, but I could do it. This is just that's basically a mitered curve. So that's a little bit much. I will grant you that it's a little bit much. If I did something like that, so I would trim that off, and then I have this curve, which isn't a whole lot different from what I was doing before, is it? So that's kind of a boomerang sort of curve. I'm thinking that's might be what I want to do, or I could sort of curve that a little bit, piece that curve, and then I could make this more of a curve just because that isn't so much of a curve. I can make it more of one. I don't know. I'm always on the lookout for suggestive things when I'm designing, because I had a warning about that. So time out for a sneeze, sorry. All right, let's try a different curve. Let's try this one. Yeah, I think I kind of like that. It's straight. Well, I need something else before it though, because it's just that those two fabrics next to each other are not what I want. So maybe, what else have I got here? I have this color, which would be a bit of a buffer to that. So, do I want a hot pink there? Well, this really is a day for Karen just pondering things, isn't it? All right, I think I'll do a hot pink on this one instead. Be a little bit of a carryover again, and then I'll see about, oh, well, you know what? Well, no, because then I have, what would that be, I wonder? If I snuck some white in there. So it would be kind of a, Or I could just leave a white space in there. You have to add white in. It's just that, you know, it's kind of a shame to waste that. These two already sewed together. What if I did a diagonal and put that on and oops, and then did a curve. Should be taking this a step at a time so I don't get myself into a corner here. All right, first thing I'm going to do is sew that on the diagonal, and then I'll take it. So now I have to think about how I want to do this. If I want to do a curve in this side and also on this side, this will be covered by the bias. This will be a pieced curve. Do I really want the white in there with the curve and then this curve with something else under there, of course? Or do I not want that white in there? Now that I've seen it, I kind of want it there. So this is the curve that I want. So I am going to just cut that there so that I don't get confused about it. And now I want to, I'm going to be piecing this curve. So I want to pull back that white piece, and then I'm going to cut this curve, both of them at the same time, and I'm going to give myself enough room that I'll have a little bit showing after I do this seam allowance, because of course cutting it this way I do not have a seam allowance built in, and I don't want this to be a very steep curve because it is not going across a lot of space there. So if it's too steep, then it will be more difficult to sew. All right, so I'm going to sew that, and then I'll come back and figure out what I want underneath that so that I can stitch that on. I know I'm kind of making life harder for myself, but there it is. All right, put those right sides together, convex on the top, and away we go. Now I need something under here for when I, that's just too dull, for when I sew the bias strip on. I'm kind of looking at maybe. Yep, now I've got yellow on that side, so I don't want to do another yellow. Not just yet, anyway. Oh, here's a red. What if we did a red stripe? That might be just a little much for the eye to deal with. Yeah, that's not good. Red might be okay, but not a red stripe. What else do we have here in our bag of tricks? I have an orange. Could go under there, and then this wrap around that, and that would be probably trimmed straight, or maybe on a diagonal, I don't know. This is a short piece, we can't do a very long wildness. This is diagonal that way. I'd be inclined to do a slight diagonal this way and then do a couple more of the straight ones. But first, I am going to, I'm going to do this first and then I'll go in and trim, but I don't want to. I need to trim before because I won't be able to get in there, and I know that that orange is going to shadow through the yellow. So I'm going to just, I might gentlify that curve a little bit. All right, so then the German Shepherds next door just ran out. I hope they don't start barking. They're pretty good, but they are guarding their yard, so, you know, squirrels, whatever. All right, now I think I'm ready to do that, and we'll see how that goes. This I can trim after I do this. I may do a little bit of a glue stick on there just to make sure that I don't lose it in the process, and then I have to think about what stitch that I want. Should I use the same railroad one because it will match up with the one on the other strip, or should I do just say a zigzag on it? Because that's a curve, I think it's gentle enough. I can do the railroad one, I think. So I will do that, and then we'll tackle the rest of it. This one isn't nearly as wild as the other one. It's a good thing that wasn't any more of a curve than it is, because of the way this stitch is done, you have to turn it at just the right time and just the right amount. So it's kind of a tricky little dickens. Now we need to figure out what we're doing here. Too soon for a red stripe? I think it is, but let me try it. Oh yeah, not good. Not good at that point. Here's some from my Mod Holiday collection. Oh no, how about if we have a black and white print? It's a little bit wonky. And then finish off with, I don't know, what have we got? We got an orange and a blue. How about that blue? Not just entirely sure. I don't know how much of that orange I want showing. Possibly not very much. The other thing I could do is sort of strip piece that. See if I've got something. Thinking about a bright green. Ew, not with that though. Eek. Eek. We got a yellow in there. That is quite a wild orange, but what if I stripped that with, I don't know, say it. Ooh, the bright gold. That's really too much pattern next to each other, isn't it? Okay, then how about some of this orange, some of that gold. Or this seafoam. Now I want it to be kind of wild, and that isn't very, honestly. If we have mostly gold, put a little bit of orange down there. And then after that, straighten out final edge. This is pretty ho-hum over here, so I think I am going to do this and then strip piece this so there isn't too much orange down here. And I know it's a different orange than this one, but this is going to be mostly gold here. That's too blah. Too blah, too blah. If we bring this back into, oh, that's better. That's better. All right, so I'll kind of strip piece that. If we do this, then we can straighten that. I don't know about that, but what am I going to do here? It better not be a mouse messing around in here. All right. I think that I cannot do that again. How about a black strip? Doing that. Is that too much curve? And I should just do that. All right, first of all, I'm gonna strip these two together and then we'll take it from there. I stripped these two and I think I'm going to cut this curve. I recut a curve. This was straight and I recut that curve. I'm going to cut the same curve on this black and white print, and then I will sew that together to make one piece, and then we can sew that onto that, and then we'll figure out the end. So I have done this curve, and now I just have to decide how much of this I want as compared to that gold, and what sort of angle I might want on that. And how much of that orange do I want? I also have this little tiny strip of white that I can use for something, white bias. Okay, I don't know. Probably more gold than, oh, I just noticed. That's my college's colors, almost. More red or more gold? I'm going to go with about there. I don't want just a lot of that orange in there, so we'll see. Now, what am I going to do down here? I'm not liking this one as well as the first one I did, but I think perhaps putting them together is going to help. I'm thinking that strip this color is just a little bit too mild for where we're at. If we end it with a black bias strip or a black bias strip to separate the wild from the less wild. Sometimes it helps for me to stand over the camera and look. I just don't think I'm liking this. I love this color, but I just don't think it's the right place. Nor do I think I want pink or gold. That green is too small. Ooh. Oh, that's a nice combination, isn't it? I don't, You know what? I'm gonna go for it. I like it. And so I'm just going to do it. I could finish off then with like a narrow yellow over here. I'm sure I have some somewhere. Oh yeah, I got lots of yellow here. And I could finish off with, well, we'll see. First of all, I want to get this on there. And this, I think I might want to leave, I might want to do just a zigzag in black thread. I think it needs something there. I could do just a narrow strip of black. It doesn't have to be a bias strip. I can save that for places where I actually need a bias strip and just do a narrow black strip in there. I think that's what I'll do. Straighten that out and just do a narrow black strip there. That's the ticket. Then I don't have to change thread. And here is our second strip. I like this end better than this end, but you need some supporting cast as well as stars, right? Now, so here's what I'm thinking. This is, of course, a different length, or width, I mean, and length, for that matter. But I'm thinking we could either do it this way, where we attach them directly, or fake it under here for a minute. We could put a narrow strip of white in between, which, you know me, a negative space, so that might be where I'm tending to head. Guess I could show you the whole thing, couldn't I? And then this shifts. Now, in my original thought for what I would do, I thought that I would have something across here to bridge it. And I may want to do that here, or I may not. Now, some other things, of course, you can make these as long as you want, and you would use up more scraps than I use here. You could just do them mostly parallel, maybe a little wonky. You certainly don't have to go through some of this curve and other stuff that I've done. I'm just playing as usual. But you could also break it up. So say I've got a really long strip here, I could put a bit in here and then skip some and do some more. I would get a quilt faster that way. Just depends on how committed you are to using up all your scraps, and I really have to start doing something. And I think this is a kind of an easy way. If you do it with diagonals and whatnot and don't worry about the embroidery, then it would go pretty fast. You could just keep sewing and flipping your way down the strips, which I think would work perfectly well. Now, another thing that I have in mind, and these may be things that I explore down the road, and now I have lost it. You know me and circles, and I had a circle earlier, didn't I? It was a lovely blue circle. I have no idea where it is, but just think about, oh, there it is. What if we used this in between, or something in between, could be a solid circle, to connect the two of them. And if I had a longer strip, oh, I kind of like it this way though. I was going to say if I had longer bits of this, then I could connect them this way, but I honestly kind of like this, where some of it is on the white. And you can make that strip as wide or narrow as you want in between. I think I would want it a little wider than that. Not horribly wide, but a little wider. and then have that which connects them. And then maybe some solid circles somewhere else. Here I have something ready for a reverse applique circle that I could trim down. So lots of choices. You could do long elongated triangles that go across there, or wide strips or squares, or lots of choices you might have for this. I don't know, I think just strips across maybe, because you've got strips here, may not be the thing. I was looking to see if I had any circles cut already. And of course, I don't. You could even do kind of odd shapes like this. Arrow shapes. That would be kind of fun. Have arrows going in different directions on the quilt. This would need to be trimmed to actually a right angle there. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. But you could do arrows. Some going up, some going down. I don't know if I'd put both of those together. Might do a different color there. Solid circles. I mean, we've got lots of choices. Black and white stripe circles. Black circles. I don't have any black circles, do I? What was I thinking when I had no black circles? Let me make one. I'm just going to fake myself one. Although you know how bad I am with spontaneous circles. They're pretty bad, but would at least give us a hint of how that might look. And I'm actually cutting it through the pinholes in the selvage, which is not going to help the look any, but we're just kind of trying things out here. Whoa, that's just embarrassing, as most of my circles are. But then you could start embellishing after you lay this down as a base. I'm into layers again, apparently. I think I would want that to be a different color, and these probably wouldn't be right next to each other, mind you, but I know I have something of another color of those because I have a zillion of them. A zillion, I'm telling you. Oh, here's a gold circle. It's not really showing up. I think it almost needs to be a black circle, doesn't it? What else do I have? I know I'm muttering to myself again. I'm not sure gold is the color I'm looking for here either. It would be more like a, I don't know, a purple maybe. Well, look at this. Here's a purple. Anyway, you see what I mean. You could do all kinds of things. But I really like this idea of adding some things onto it. Yeah, don't know how I feel about the black circle, but it could certainly make that feel a little better down here, couldn't it? I think I could cut a better circle too. See, I could obsess about this circle for a long, long time, and you don't need to sit and watch me do that. So, just think it really needs something down here. Anyway, there's some ideas. There are some ideas, and I'm liking individual parts of these. I think that once I get a whole sheet of them, so to speak, they will look more cohesive. And once I start adding in things like this, as I think I would, then I think it gets even better. So let me know what you think in the comments. Yes, no, add more, don't add more. What you would add, how wide you would do this, whether or not you like the wild parts of this, or would like to just do straight strips down there, or do crumb quilting. The nice thing about doing the straight strips is it's a kind of, you don't need a lot of thought. So if your brain isn't functioning very well on any given day, if you're tired and you just want to sew, put pedal to the metal, then you can do strips that are just like that and be using up all of your scraps or many of your scraps. If you want to add in a little bit of a challenge or some creativity, then you can try adding in other things as well. So let me know what you think in the comments. I always appreciate your ideas and your comments. Thank you for those of you who do that. It helps for other people to find it, the more comments I have and the likes and all of that. So thank you all very much when you comment. It's always good to hear from you. Good to see you, so to speak. And I will be back next week. Maybe we'll do some more of this, maybe something else. I do have another idea for how I thought I was going to bridge these, so we might try a couple of short stretches of that. So I hope I will see you then. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.